Hello everyone. I went to an oncology visit today and I have some more bad news for you. The tumor right here has started to grow again. I was on a protocol called EPOCH, E-P-O-C-H. It was a kind of a mid-range, mid-level protocol, very successful with Burkitt's lymphoma overall. For whatever reason, it worked really well with the first round of chemo, and where I had a big knot on my neck, it melted like butter on a hot skillet, and that's a good thing. Second round of chemo came and it did not change any, and then in the last week or so I wasn't sure if it was growing, but really I could started to tell that it was starting to grow. And when I got to my oncologist, I had a series of questions to kind of box her in and dig through her brain, and I did not have to. She walked in and she started her exam, and as soon as she touched the knot on my neck, she said, "Oh, this is not good." So for whatever reason, the tumor has grown resistant to the chemo regimen that I was on. What we're going to do is we're going to start another regimen that's called RICE, and it's spelled just like it sounds, R-I-C-E, RICE. Stands for the different medications that are in the protocol. It's only 3 cycles. I will start tomorrow, and it's 14 days between the start of each cycle. So it will be tomorrow, it's 4 or 5 days in the hospital, round-the-clock infusions, and then home until 2 Thursdays after that. Repeat 2 more times. She told me that it's a very difficult protocol to withstand, and she said, "Get ready because it's rough." And I said, "I'm ready for it," and I said, "Include the kitchen sink, just throw it all at me, because if we're going to fight this, I've got to fight it with all that we've got." It's obviously a tricky form of Burkitt's, and no more Mr. Nice Guy. I was able to drive myself to the appointment today, and felt almost human. So the protocol that I have been on was a mid-level protocol, and we're going to step it up. I went ahead and took time to notify immediate family members that I could get a hold of. I also put a post in the Burkitt's Lymphoma Society's private group and shared with them what was going on, and several of them have been on RICE and know about RICE, and they said that it is very, very difficult and that it's going to be a hang-on type of deal. So what's going to happen? Chemo goes after the most rapidly dividing cells in the body. That's why we lose the lining in our mouth, the intestinal tracts kind of slough the lining off, hair, eyelashes, whatever, falls out, because these are the most rapidly dividing cells in the body. Burkitt's lymphoma is the most rapidly dividing cancer, as far as I know, to mankind. Doubles in size about every 24, 25 hours. Therefore, logic would dictate that when you take butter and you put it on a hot skillet, it's going to melt down. End of story. That simple. The hotter the skillet, the quicker it's going to melt. We had kind of a medium hot skillet going last time, and she's going to just crank it up this time. And the first round of chemo with the previous regimen, it indeed melted very quickly. I mean, from literally 1 week to the next, we just saw it shrink down, shrink down, shrink down, and by round 2, it quit shrinking, and it just seemed to stay steady, and then started to regrow, so it got resistant. So how will we know when this is working with the RICE protocol? Basically, as intense as it is, it should be just like butter on a hot skillet, but a very hot skillet. We should see this knot in my neck, which I don't know how well it shows up on the camera here, but it's getting longer is what's happening. We should see that knot start melting down and getting smaller. Probably I would guess within 2 weeks we will know, but within 4 weeks for sure we will know if it's working or not. If it works, then only 3 cycles, 6 weeks, then I will be in remission. Because fortunately we caught this at stage 2, which is a good thing. So having it right here on my neck turned out to be like a blessing. They'll probably, step up the stem cell transplant process quick as they can, find a donor. You can bet that I will be letting everyone know who desires to get a mouth swab. I think they just take like a little cotton thing and run it around your mouth and kind of get the cells from the lining of your mouth, and they can check to see if you have the HLA typing or whatever that's called. There are like 12 different things that must match, or as close as possible. My sisters have already been tested. They are not a match. I will proceed forward with the stem cell transplant. It's a little bit scary. A lot of emotion on this. A lot of emotion. Need y'all to be praying for our family. Needless to say, I have this particular man that I'm fascinated with, and he's been somebody who has meant the world to me. Lived about 2,000 years ago, and he had to face something that he knew it was the right thing to do. He was also willing to do it. But he displayed in his humanity his emotions. And I'm feeling my emotions, I assure you, as well as the whole family. And just like he spent several hours crying out saying, is there any other way? Oh Lord, please, is there any other way? And he, I don't know exactly what happened, but I mean, if he was sweating drops of blood, I can imagine there were maybe some tears mixed in, possibly. A lot of anguish. Was he bargaining with God? Some people are real touchy on that subject. I'm not trying to preach doctrine. I'm just suggesting that if the Son of God can himself feel very powerful emotions when he's facing the end of his life, then some of us who are facing our humanity maybe should be allowed the same thing. And that is what's happening right now. Lots of emotion. And but right next to the discouragement and the sadness and the grief, there's also a surge of hope. And I feel a real sense of purpose in this. Let me share something with y'all. There's a lot of power in acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean agreement with. Acceptance means I will bend to the will of what is meant to be for me. And I will accept whatever is going to happen. I'm also going to give it hell, and I'm going to give it a fight. And I'm going to submit to everything I need to submit to. Need your prayers. Need your prayers. Please don't forget my wife and daughters. They are going through this with me, obviously, and in many respects they are the unsung heroes. And they're hurting too. I don't know how many more updates I will be able to do. Don't feel too bad right now, physically. As this goes on, I have been warned by several that this will be intense. I do not know what I will be able to do by way of blogging or videos, but I will update y'all somehow, some method, as to what's going on and if it's working or not. And we will know in the next 2 to 4 weeks, because butter on a hot skillet's going to melt or not. And this regimen will either work or it won't. And if it doesn't work, my oncologist said we'll cross that bridge if we should get there. Don't want to really speculate at that point because options are going to run pretty thin. Doesn't mean there aren't any, but you know, it gets pretty tricky. So thank you for your prayers. I'm sorry that you know, I've got such heavy news. Why don't you do me a favor and really consider the greatest commandment, to love God, others as self. Jesus said there is nothing greater. It's about relationships. Seek out those that you love. Give them a hug. Really, really focus on forgiveness. It's easy to carry bitterness and resentment for the little things that those that are closest to you irritate you with. I know I'm human. And during these times we are feeling our own things, you know, and it's not worth it. Don't carry bitterness and resentment. Let it go. Release. Forgive. Forgiveness is to release and to cancel a debt. And if you wonder if you've forgiven somebody, let me tell you something. If they owe you something, you have not released them from the debt. Ask yourself, what do they owe me? Now, if you don't feel like they owe you anything, but you have a lot of hurt emotions, powerful ones, you're cheated, hurt, whatever, you know what? Forgiveness has nothing to do with your emotional state. In the short term, you're going to feel a lot of emotion. But I tell you what, it's the long term, because you let that acid go that will erode and eat your soul. People, reach out to those you love the most, spend time with them, lots of forgiveness, love God, love others as self. Let me tell you what, if I've learned nothing else, I hope that I could pass that on to y'all. Thank you for your support, for your prayers. Love y'all so much. I really appreciate the kind words and cards. I've gotten so many. The emails, the messages, every one of them means so much to me. Every one. It really means a lot to me. Please don't forget my wife Janice, my daughters Andrietta and Chauncey. See if you can't send them a little something kind, just a card or a thought, or find a way, because they're giving so much right now. And they're hurting too. Love y'all. May the peace of Christ rule in your hearts.
It's a